Welcome everyone to the Rotary Club of Park Cities. My name is Eric Heitkamp, past president, and I am filling in for JEFF McNAUGHTON today, who is our president, who sadly couldn't be here. He is in Florida for a family emergency, so please keep him in your prayers. We are glad to have everyone here today. This is a very special day for our club, and it's special because of y'all here. And we thank y'all for being here, and for those of you online, we thank you as well. Let's call this meeting to order, and we'll take 3 minutes to greet our fellow Rotarians and guests.
Well, Jim, good to see you.
Eric Heitkamp.
Jim Mills, good to see you.
You want to do this today?
You're looking awful distinguished.
Another day. So.
Right? You been good, like yourself.
Yeah, we're doing well.
Family good?
Yeah, kids are 10 and 14 now, and about to get into high school baseball and all kinds of stuff.
Business is good?
Yeah, it is actually good. We were real good. COVID was almost a boost for us.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Well, the club attendance looks about the same. And, where are
Yeah,
you?
I don't know the exact numbers right now. I want to say they're in the 150s. Even down. The ones that have not been as crowded as we'd like for them to be, but we've got a good crowd today.
See that? Yeah. It looks about the same. It's kind of hard to tell whether
We've got a lot of new people, a lot of young people, and just a lot of new people right now. I'm one of the guys on the interview committee.
So they are coming in?
Yeah. We've had a lull the last month or so, but I think that's typical this time.
Okay.
So good to see you.
Good to see you. You bet.
Mary, good. They'll probably move them if they want back. I think they wanted when we get around here. Has it been 3 minutes? But if you're talking, it's like 12 seconds.
If you're up here, see over now.
Thank you for doing this. Nobody does it better. You're doing great. That's a really hard thing to do. I never get it right, and I'm just amazed how you do it. So, and you just do it off the cuff.
No, he's past president. I mean, I could understand because I have it, but I need to know their name so I can put it in. I know. Which one is it? Let me see.
All right, let's make our way back to our seats. We've got a full agenda today. Our invocation and pledge will be led by Mary Bishop. National Anthem and Patriotic Solo by Lee Waggoner is to introduce Camille SKYPE. We're glad to have her back this year. Mary?
Hello. Welcome to all our guests today. We're so glad to have you. Are there any concerns that we need to lift up? We do our joys later. We call those happy bucks. Happy bucks. Any concerns that you'd like to share? Okay. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Let's take a deep breath and just relax into the moment. From the hustle and bustle of getting here, calm our minds with your thoughts, Lord. Lord, we thank you for this present moment, for our health, our well-being, for the food you're going to place before us. Lord, we lift up our praise and thanksgiving for you are the God Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, the creator of all things. And we praise and thank you for that. Father, we lift up the ministry of Genesis. We thank you for those that have worked there and been there for these many years, for the safety of those women and children and young people. Father, it is only by your grace that we are safe and that violence can be prevented. So we lift this wonderful ministry up to you and ask for a blessing on it. Lord, be with our speaker and with those down right this minute serving at the Genesis shelter. Father, we lift them up to you and ask for a blessing over them. In your name we pray. Amen. National anthem. The Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. You got to have a little levity even in these kinds of luncheons. Hey, we're really fortunate to have CAMILLE Sky 2.0. She led us last year at this luncheon and at Gore Park. She's going to sing at Gore Park again on the 4th of July. CAMILLE is a wonderful soprano who sings as a chorister in our Highland Park United Methodist Church Chancel Choir, as well as in a special teaching service called Kerygma, where she solos there. She is going to solo our national anthem and then sing something very red, white, and blue after that. So please welcome CAMILLE Sky.
Singing the varied carols I hear, Walt Whitman. I hear America singing, I hear America singing, I hear America singing. I like to see a man proud of the place in which he lives. I like to see a man live so that his place will be proud of him. Abraham Lincoln. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Nathan Hale. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's bride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free. Freedom has its life in the hearts, the actions, the spirit of men. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Where liberty dwells, there is my country. Benjamin Franklin. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of green, for purple mountain majesties above the flooded God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Emma Lazarus. Let music swell the breeze and ring from all the trees sweet freedom's song. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breathe partake, let rocks their silence break, a sound prolonged. I hear America singing, I hear America singing, America, America, America. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camille. That's a true gift from God, and that's all I can say. It's incredible. Thank you for sharing. All right, Happy Bucks. Richard's going to pass around the pot here. This is where we talk about good things in our life and recognize the funds go to recognize the public servants of University Park and Highland Park.
Well, I'm very happy to be at the Grand Marshal Luncheon in honor of our honored guests. Thank you for everything you do in the community.
There's got to be more happy things in the world. All right, Tricia.
Well, I am happy to be here. Today is my daughter's birthday. Next Friday night, we have our Taste of the Cowboys. If you need anything to do, you can buy tickets online, little self-plug there. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm just honored that we have Jan as our Grand Marshal. So thank you, Jan. And to be the benefactor.
All right, thank you for those that contributed, and we'll swing into introduction of guests here. Now, at this point, those of you that brought someone with you today, we'll introduce those guests, Grand Marshals and all that. We will do at a later time here.
My guest is taking my picture. This is Lauren. She's one of our interns here at People Newspapers this summer. She, as you can see, taking pictures. I think she's even going to write a story or two and lay out some pages and help us participate in the parade, because Park City's People has a float and a booth and all of that, and she'll be helping somehow in that. So anyway.
I'm
excited. Yes, thank you guys.
Have you ever been to a Rotary meeting before?
No, I haven't. It's awesome. I'm
Okay.
excited to be here.
Well, it's cool. All right. Rachel, my deputy editor, has been to Rotary meetings before, including here. She was also a member of Rotary Club in Oklahoma, so she knows all about Rotary. And if you like what you see in Park City's people every month and think I'm doing a great job, it's really because Rachel's doing a great job. So,
I'd like to introduce my brother, Mark Cullum. He is a 50-year member of the Downtown Dallas Rotary Club and twice club president, so I'm happy to have him here. And longtime friend of Jan Langbein.
I'd like you all to meet my friend Carl Bediger. He and I are ushers at St. Michael's and the #1 team.
well,
Who do we have? We have with us today Coach Randy Allen, Highland Park High School coach extraordinaire and a past Grand Marshal. And also, we have a Centurion, Brad Bradley, photographer expertise. He is also a past Grand Marshal. Glad to have Brad and Jimmy here with us as well.
And Kirk Dooley. Yes, yes. Everybody knows Kirk, the historian of all things. Hi, Kirk.
I am so honored. I'm not even a member of this club, but I get to sit between Camille and Brad Bradley.
Marketplace advertiser today is Tanya Boughton from Brent Cooper State Farm. Tanya has been an active member of our Rotary for 8 years and has served as the co-chair for the UP tree lighting event, which is also a big event that we do in the fall, for 7 years. In addition to her community involvement, Tanya is dedicated to championing legislation that ensures grocery access in underserved areas. She also is actively involved in the fight against big tobacco at the federal level through legislation and advocating for a ban on flavored vaping. Tanya also contributes her marketing expertise to Brent Cooper State Farm, an agency that stands out by reducing insurance rates. Brent has been serving as an agent in Dallas since 1987. He has built a thriving business in the Preston Hollow and Park Cities communities, serving thousands of loyal customers. His wife Liz is also a small business owner in Dallas, and they have been happily married for 35 years. Together, they have 2 adult sons who they cherish and spend quality time with. Throughout the years, his State Farm agency has received numerous prestigious awards, including State Farm Ambassador Travel, State Farm Chairman's Circle, and more. These accolades reflect their unwavering commitment to meeting diverse insurance needs ranging from life, homeowners, health, renters, condo, small business, and auto. Giving back to our community is a core value. They proudly support various local charities, and their efforts extend to organizations such as the Park Cities YMCA, the Rotary Club of the Park Cities, Baylor, Presbyterian and Methodist hospitals, as well as the Highland Park and University Park fire and police departments. Their dedication to community involvement is what sets them apart. Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Brett Cooper, State Farm Real Estate, for being our marketplace advertiser today.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Tanya, for your sponsorship. Thank you. All right, Alan Wynn, getting into the fun part here. Introduction of past Grand Marshals, announcement of the parade theme, and recognition of past parade chairs.
Well, thank you, Philip and Cleve. You just took away some of my introduction. But I wanted to ask Mr. Randy Allen, what year were you Grand Marshal? Do you, of the parade? Do you know? Okay. The only reason why I asked, wasn't sure you were going to be here, but it's, great. Okay. Anyway, welcome. My name's Alan Wynn, and I'm the co-chair for this year's 20th hosting of the Park Cities Rotary Club Parade, and Jill Jordan is also my co-chair. She's right down here. Want to thank some people initially. So glad to have Mayor Pro Tem here. This year's parade theme is Freedom to Serve. And hold on for a second. You're right, I can't. But anyway, want to go ahead and thank some past members who are past and present members for what they've done for this parade this year. First off, Tammy Kauser, who's sitting right down here, and all her efforts to put on this luncheon and all the beautiful things we have set out on the table is wonderful. Second, we want to acknowledge all the past Grand Marshals. They have somewhat been recognized, but I don't want to go further. We just said something about Randy Allen. Next, I want to say something about Brad Bradley, who's sitting right here. He is here with his son. He was Grand Marshal in 2017, and Philip Bankhead was the parade chair that year. Brad's son told me earlier, as I guess it was Cleve alluded to, that he is now 100 years old, and he's going to have his next birthday on July 23rd. Fantastic. Next is Kirk Dooley, sitting next to Mr. Bradley. Kirk recently shared the history of the parade with me, and I've mentioned it last week or the week before to the Rotarians, but he was able to document the parade back to 1950-ish, and it's when the Highland Park and University Park towns celebrated it separately. And it wasn't until about the early 60s, I think that you said, is the Park Cities JCs took it over. And they ran it for a while up until about 1970, is my understanding. And then a number of individual families undertook by themselves to go ahead and take it on for about 10 years. The first joint parade, like I said, was from the Park Cities JCs. Interestingly enough, Kirk and his wife Charlotte were one of the families that took it on after the JCs. They ran it from 1994 to 1998. They turned it over to the Park Cities Exchange Club in 1999, and then the Park Cities Exchange Club turned it over to us in 2003. So Kirk, in my calculation, you're the only one who has ever served as Grand Marshal and parade chair for the parade. Congratulations. Want to make sure, is there any other Grand Marshal here that I haven't recognized? Seeing none, I want to go ahead and recognize the past parade chairs, this being the 20th year. When I call your names, if you could stand up and line up over here in front of this banner. We're going to go in reverse order. So Sarah Ollie, was parade chair for 3 years. She did it 2019, 2020, skipped a year and did it 2022. Next up, let's give him a round of applause at the end. The next up is Philip Bankhead. He was parade chair for 3 years, 2017, 2018, and 2021. He was also club president. Jim Mills headed the parade for 2 years, 2015 and 2016. He was also past president. Paul Pyrot did it for 3 years, 2012, 2013, 2014. He's also past president. Cleve Clinton did it for 2 years, 2010 to 2013. He's also a past president. And the final one is Dr. Roy Washburn, who did an outstanding 7 years as parade chair. He was the club's first parade chair for its inaugural year in 2004. That's the year I started doing it with you, Roy. And he went through 2009, and like most others, he's also a past president of the club. Okay, so Jill's been handing out a token of the club's appreciation for the hard work that these past parade chairs did. One of you open it up and show them what you got. Philip? It's a paperweight with the Rotary emblem and the dates that they were parade chairs. Fourth, we need to mention Tom Rhodes. Is Tom here today? I don't see him. He's probably out getting vendors and sponsors for the Gore Park celebration. He basically allows us to put on the parade every year. He gets the money coming in for the Gore Park celebration, and we spend his money. And so thank you very much, Tom Rhodes, and all those people who have worked with him and are working with him. Fifth, want to thank Karen Harris and her team who've worked hard to get donations to honor our community partner and our 2023 parade beneficiary, the North Texas Food Bank. I know she's here. Where is she? Well, did she walk out? No, I had said Karen Paris. She was here, but. And then we have two of those corporate donors are here, and they're being represented, they're at the $5,000 Old Glory sponsorship level. The first is club member Tiffany Richmond, representing Encore. And is she here? There she is, right there. And second at that level is club member Susan Harris, representing Atmos Energy. Yeah, there you are. There are two people at the next higher level. First, and you'll be hearing a little bit more from him later, is George Clement at the $7,500 level, which is the Patriot sponsorship level. And then finally, we would like to thank the Park Cities Rotary Foundation for their generous donation of $7,500 at also the Patriot sponsorship level. Let's give everybody a hand. Back over to you.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you to all our sponsors, and thank you to all the members of the club that work tirelessly to make this work. So I'm going to work on that. All right, George, would you like to come up and say a few words? George Clement with Frost Bank.
And I was actually cursed with a reverse name. It's Clement George. I have a first name for a last name and a last name for a first name. No problem. My name is Clement George. I'm a commercial banker for Frost Bank and our community leader. For those of y'all who don't know a ton about Frost Bank, we're over 155 years old, headquartered in San Antonio, and have branches all throughout the state of Texas and only the state of Texas. We are thrilled to be sponsoring the 4th of July parade again this year. And supporting the North Texas Food Bank, so we thank you for that opportunity. As someone who grew up in Highland Park and graduated from Highland Park High School and was a student of last year's Grand Marshal, it's always exciting for me to be a part of the parade and to be there. So thank you all very much for allowing us to sponsor this year's parade. Thank you.
Clement, you are too kind there. Thank you so much for your sponsorship and commitment. All right, I know I won't get this backwards. Tricia Cunningham, CEO of the North Texas Food Bank and also a collaborative partner in our club. So Tricia, you want to come up and say a few words?
Eric, you're right. It's not Cunningham, Tricia. You got it. But I'm just thrilled to be here. How many of you were we came out to the North Texas Food Bank earlier in May, whenever we had? I just want to thank you for doing that, so I'm not going to repeat everything that I said there, but all of you understand why this parade sponsorship is so important to us. We have been working with the Park Cities Rotary since 2012. You've helped us not only get a mobile food truck, which we still take out, we call it our fresh route now, with produce out into the community, but you come and you volunteer. More than 1,600 hours I think we have logged to date for Rotarians who have come out to volunteer with us, and you continue to support us. And I love the 4th of July parade because I think hunger is one of those things. It doesn't matter whether it's someone Jan is serving through Genesis Women's Shelter, or whether it's someone that has a health issue, someone trying to get an education, that could be a small child to someone in college. It is the most basic of needs. And so you're helping to fill that void through your sponsorship, and I do want to thank our sponsors, and it's so great to have Encore and Atmos and Frost and the Park Cities Foundation being our great sponsors of the parade. We are extremely grateful for the continued partnership, and we hope that it continues for a very long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tricia, and for your partnership. All right, speaking of the North Texas Food Bank and support for them, everyone has a QR code on your table. If you'd like to scan that and donate, we would more than appreciate it. All right, upcoming events, Friday, 6/23, we've got the awards and installation banquet at Ozona Grill at 11:30 a.m. Join us for that. Wednesday, June 28th, is the Agape Pharmacy 6-month inventory. That's actually a lot of fun. It doesn't sound like it is, but it's a ton of fun sorting all the medicines and seeing how much is actually donated. It's actually a lot of fun. We need volunteers for 2 shifts, 9 a.m. to noon and noon to 3 p.m. Check our website, rotaryclub@parkcities.org. Friday on June 30th, there will be no noon meeting due to the parade. All right, John Brown will do the raffle here. And this raffle, if you bought raffle tickets, half of it goes to our winner. We've been doing this all year. Half goes, it's the Ace of Spades is the winning ticket. Half goes to the winner, and half goes to our club foundation. Right now we're at about $1,300. Drum roll, please. All right, the winner is, stand by, 1415983. 1415983. Please come to the podium. All right, Richard. Jeff would require for me to check your ticket. All right, the money stays in the pot, and thank you all for who contributed to Park Cities Foundation. All right, we're to our favorite part of the program. Jill Jordan, come on up. Introduce our speaker.
Traffic jam on the stairs. So it's my pleasure to introduce the Grand Marshal for this year. This year's Grand Marshal is John Langbein. Jan is the CEO of the Genesis Women's Shelter and Support, where she oversees the shelter's operations, does the fundraising, and education programs. Under her leadership, Genesis has grown from a small 7-room emergency shelter to a full-service provider for victims of domestic violence. I was surprised at what Genesis all has. Besides the shelter services, they have transitional housing, daycare, an on-site school, access to legal representation, job readiness training, ESL education, and counseling. Genesis is one of the few such victim services programs in the country that operates without government funding. Jan is a national expert on domestic violence. She has conducted training and been a keynote speaker for numerous state and national conferences. She provides expert testimony in court cases and trains law enforcement personnel and prosecutors. In partnership with the Dallas Police Department and the FBI, Jan co-founded the annual International Conference on Crimes Against Women, bringing together law enforcement, advocates, prosecutors, and forensic health professionals. She's held a presidential appointment as a senior policy advisor to the U.S. Department of Justice's Office on Violence Against Women. There, she helped guide program and administrative processes and supported efforts to implement the Violence Against Women Act. She has served on numerous boards and committees for such organizations as the Texas Council on Family Violence, the Dallas Mayor's Task Force on Domestic Violence, the Greater Dallas Injury Prevention Center, and the North Texas Food Bank. She has received numerous awards for her leadership and community service, including the FBI Director's Community Leadership Award, SMU's Profile in Leadership Award, the Dallas Bar Association's Liberty Bell Award, and the Bush Institute's Trailblazer Citation. On the personal side, Jan and her husband Steve have been married for 53 years. They have 2 daughters, and I am quoting from the information I received. She has 6 flawless grandchildren. The couple lives in University Park. We're going to welcome Jan up to the stage, but today's format is a little different than we normally have our programs. So our very own Jeff Brady, who's been a TV news announcer, talk show host, communicator, communications expert extraordinaire, he is going to lead us through a conversation with Jan. And so if you all will please welcome Jeff and Jan to the stage.
Okay, thanks. Hi. I feel like I'm in church. I got to tell you, I see a lot of my friends here, and then, of course, people like Tricia. I get to see, and I know Jeff hasn't started yet, But I get to see firsthand the difference that your dollars make when you give it to the North Texas Food Bank.
See, she needs no, I don't need to be here,
What are you
really.
doing
I mean,
here?
this is just, you just toss one question and she's off to the races.
No.
So now, Jan, we've known each other.
But I got to brag on Tricia.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so we, at the shelter, we have so many moms that come in, and the first thing they say is, do you have anything for us to eat? One of the few, you know, if the fight has been going on, one of the things that has gone without is something to eat. And so we are so grateful to the North Texas Food Bank, and of course, to this Rotary Club for making that possible. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tricia. It's important. It's crucially important. So, Jan, you and I have known each other. So just some personal history. We met, if I remember correctly, we met when our families were going on a vacation. We were flying somewhere, and my wife sat down next to you, and I didn't get a word in edgewise because the two of them were talking.
She was so pregnant with your first, and it was a baby moon cruise, and I had gone on a cooking cruise with my girlfriends, and had,
that's right.
I think I'd been overserved on the plane at that point, and I thought, well, these people are so cute, and I'm sitting next to Dr. Wesley, and just jumped right in.
We've been friends ever since. So, Jan, a lot of you, I feel like you know half of our club here, so you're well known here and a fixture in the community, but you are known, and Genesis is known for enormous and highly successful fundraising luncheons, right? And you've done this for years, and you bring in a celebrity guest, and instead of, kind of like what we're doing now, instead of having the celebrity guest, i.e. George Bush, speak from the podium, oh, no, Jan wants to interview them. So I've often thought, Jan, you really are kind of a wannabe broadcast journalist, I think, and you're probably hoping that maybe one day that might pan out for you, if
I
the
hope
Genesis
so. My
thing
next
doesn't turn
job,
out.
exactly, if Genesis doesn't go well.
Well, I've been there at some of your amazing interviews, and you really do a great job. So tell us just real quick, an aside, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever said to a celebrity guest other than when you asked President Bush if he were pregnant? You remember that?
That's not what I said.
That's not what you said?
But you are on the right one. I didn't ask him if he was pregnant, so I'm sitting there. I did not want to interview President Bush, but these celebrities come in and say they no longer want to do a stand and deliver, and so they want somebody who can chit-chat back and forth. And I got to tell you, I don't like to turn that over to just anybody because I want us to talk about the issue and Genesis and the agency and so on and so forth. But anyway, I was scared to death, and Laura was out of town. It was kind of rainy. He couldn't go out and ride his bike. And so he really had nothing to do but mess with me, right? And so I talked to him about being grandfather-in-chief, and he said, oh, my gosh, her water broke at a baby. I'm like, I can't believe the President of the United States is talking to me about somebody's water breaking, right? Anyway, I turned to him. President Bush was actually the one president then and now, who has appointed more women to his cabinet. And I turned to him and I was trying to say throughout your presidency, and I said throughout your pregnancy, and I wasn't paying attention, right? And all of a sudden this was going on, and I'm looking out going, what? What? And I look down and I see Ray Hunt, and they're really good friends, right? Ray Hunt's giving me a look like, man,
you did it.
done it now.
Open mouth, insert foot.
So he goes, President, of course, as I say, just kind of goes on and on with, you know, I'm pro-life, Jan, but that's just ridiculous.
That's too much, right?
He wouldn't let it drop. So as a
was great. I
a
remember
tale on that story, I'm in the city hall about 6 months later, and I'm getting on the 6th floor and heading down to the parking lot. The mayor and his entourage gets on the 5th floor. This was
which mayor?
Mayor Rawlings.
Rawlings, yeah.
And so I looked over and said, Mr. Mayor, and he said, hey, Jan, and he just kind of started talking to his entourage, and then he puts his head back and laughs. Really, Jan, his pregnancy? So this is clearly not going to die.
And then now I bring it up. You know, this is how many years
Thanks,
later?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're among friends here.
Lifetime.
No, but seriously, Jan, you, as we, discussed in your introduction, you've been such a vocal and successful and powerful advocate for this cause. You've been a true asset to so many, not just your agency, but so many others in this community, and you're a leader on this front, this important front that's often neglected by others, not only for our city, but for our state and our nation. And we thank you so much, and we could not be happier as a club to have you as our Grand Marshal this year. So thank you. Okay, so, but let's get serious here. Why, clearly you're kind of an introvert. You don't really like to get out and speak much. So why did you say yes? When our team, not our committee, but our team, Cleve and the others, asked you to do this, why did you say yes to be a Grand Marshal?
So I think Cleve did it right. He called my assistant and said, we just have something we want to tell her, and had no appointment, didn't know if I was even there, and the guy just kind of walks in, right? And says this, and I'm like, I can think of 100 people that should be Grand Marshal before me, and I really don't like the attention on me. And so what, of course, Cleve, in his geniusness, said is it'll help raise awareness about Genesis Women's Shelter. You know, so many people think this issue is somebody else. So many people think this cannot happen in the Park Cities, and I can tell you for a fact it does. There are women who are afraid in their own homes. There are children who cry themselves to sleep at night, and we think it happens someplace else, not to people like us. So if that is my opportunity, then that's why I want to do it.
Okay, well, we'll help you do that. And here you are. And we'll have a good time, too. You get, we're going to dress you
Tiara
up.
and sash?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it'll do it right. So dial back the clock a little bit. How did you first get involved in this work?
So that's a good question, and if some of you all have been Junior League professionals, provisionals, pregnant. If some of you all have been Junior League provisionals, you've heard me tell this story, but I am a sustainer now, but a member of the Junior League of Dallas, and I had what I call, if you don't know about Junior League, you have to do so many hours of volunteerism in the community, and you learn about Dallas and so on and so forth. And so I had what I referred to as placement from hell. And I think, Linda, you may know what it was, because I think you were on that committee with me. And I thought, well, next year it's the easy way out. And I went through back when there was a brochure, and I went through the brochure, and I looked for the easy way out. Well, just a note, if you want to make God laugh, look for the easy way out, right? It isn't out there, number one. Anyway, so I am rushing down the street. You don't have to go, you don't have to train, you can wear jeans. It was perfect for me. So I'm heading down there, and I wanted to get there before my girlfriends did, Happy, because I didn't want you all signing up before I got there, right, and filling it up. So I'm on my way down Lover's Lane. This is kind of a long story to a short question. But I had broken one of my little Junior League acrylic fingernails, and I thought, well, I want to do good in the community, but I think my nails ought to look nice.
Demerits for that.
Yeah, right. For sure, in the league. So I got my nail fixed, right? And as I'm sort of waiting there, this magazine slips in my lap, and it says on the cover, every 9 seconds in this country, a woman is battered. And I thought, well, nobody I know. And then it said 1 out of every 3 women, 1 out of every 3 women you pass at North Park, in the grocery store, in your faith community, will know domestic violence on an ongoing basis. It said that domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women in the United States. More women present to hospitals as a direct result of domestic violence than as a result of car wrecks, muggings, and rapes combined. Now, they don't walk in there and say, I'm here because I got smacked. They say, I fell down the stairs and I cut myself while cooking, and so on and so on. I went on to read the article in the magazine, and it said, it was about 2 professionals. I think he was a dentist and she was a doctor or a lawyer or something, but professional people, and he beat her, guys, with a tire tool because dinner was late. And I was offended. I was just offended, not from abuse, didn't know anybody that I thought. I know now I knew somebody and just didn't pay attention. But I got my nail fixed. Got to Junior League headquarters, opened up to violence intervention, stuck my finger down on Genesis. I'd never heard of Genesis, but I thought, well, the president came and said we need new leadership, and she needs to be able to work the crowd and raise money. Out of my mouth shoots, oh my gosh, that's me. Y'all, I was a stay-at-home mom. I'd never read a financial statement. I'd never hired or fired or any of the stuff that I have to do now. But I thought, you know where? That's where my finger went, and off I went. They hired me, and it was a 7-room shelter at the time. And I'm not that smart, but I hire really smart people. And I think, Tricia, you'd say the same thing. But I did it on a needs basis. I would think, well, where do these kiddos stay while mom needs to go off and get a protective order or whatever? We put daycare on site. Kids were getting snatched out of their schools, so we put school on site by the abuser. So we put school on site. Lack of access to civil legal representation is the biggest roadblock. If he's going to come after me in court, and Judge, you've seen this before, he's got on the suit and tie, she's got nothing, right? And he's got hot and cold paralegals and lawyers, and he gets the kids. You can say that would never happen. I say, come on down to family court and watch with me. Anyway, long story longer, we just put one foot in front of the other and said, okay, we need a legal justice center on site, and we need non-residential services on site for those women who either haven't left or they've left and have other residential resources. We have just launched an amazing program. We are the first, of my knowledge, that has an occupational therapist on site. At any given point, we might have 5 or 6 kids living in our shelter who are on the, have special needs, who are on the autism spectrum. We have realized that the intersectionality between neurodiversity and domestic violence. I don't know if you've ever been around a child who is on the autism spectrum, but when they have a meltdown, it sucks the life out of a family. And I can only begin to imagine how many smacks mom took before he got to that child. What was the question you asked?
Okay, so that that about wraps up our time
Thank you
now.
for having me.
I think we're pretty much done with the program. Thank you, Jan. It's been great. You see what I mean? She doesn't really need me here. I mean, I'm really like wallpaper. Okay, yeah, Jeff. The biggest misconception, but you already touched on that, and it's people assume it's not in my neighborhood, and that's not the case.
It's real easy to think.
No, shh. We already talked about that. We're going to move on. Okay, how has the fight? Next question. I feel like a game show host. She's got to be wrangled here. How has the fight, Jan, against domestic violence changed during your time that you've been with Genesis? I mean, is it the same fight year after year, or are we in a different place now than we were decades ago?
Well, I do think we're better. I really do. I think, when I went there 32 years ago, you all wouldn't have had me in front of the Rotary Club as a speaker. We didn't talk about it. There weren't books really written on it. And again, before, I had been there about 5 or 6 years, but prior to, let me say that again. Genesis had been there 5 or 6 years before I got there, but it had a budget of, I don't know, $200,000 and 7 bedrooms, and nobody really cared. But the people who founded it, likes of Dr. Charles Sprague and Henry Seaback Jr. and Father Power, some great Dallas leaders, and all men, said this is necessary. So how have I seen this change? I think more people have said, yes, that is especially men. You men are fathers, and you are brothers, and you are grandfathers and neighbors. We have to have, more men have become involved in this issue other than just being the perpetrators. So when we do the call to action, that's where I'm headed. But have I seen it? Okay, so on the rise, that's all good information, right? The bad is what I'm seeing in the legislature that comes out and says, the Fifth Circuit decision that said, you can't take away a person's guns. Did you follow this, sir? It's just stupid. Texas state and federal law says if you have a protective order, if you're subject to a protective order, or if you've been convicted of domestic violence, you can't have, borrow, buy, use a gun. Women, where there are guns in the house, are 500 times more likely to be killed. And yet, in their infinite wisdom, 3 court judges said, we're not going to do that in Texas.
And that's not an exaggeration. You said
no,
500 times.
You're 500 times more likely to be killed in your own home. You guys, Mary Williams Richardson, she lived 2 blocks from St. Michael and All Angels. He murdered her. He murdered her. The guy, and the intersection between mass shooting and domestic violence is horrifying. The guy who goes into Sutherland Springs, Texas, into that First Baptist church and murders so many people. He was going for his wife and his mother-in-law that day. It's so connected. So anyway, I've seen it get good, and then I've seen lack of resources for women's reproductive health, and that really matters because of one way. If you want to control somebody, keep her fat and pregnant. Don't allow her birth control, have 7, 8 kids, and she can't go anywhere. So anyway, there are a lot of things of those going on that aren't paying attention to the impact that has on women. There are days I feel like ordering my handmaid's cloak, that red cloak that shows I'm a breeder, or was, off Amazon. They have them, but there's a run on them now because it's getting bad. It's getting bad, yeah.
Tell us what works. What have you seen that's the most effective tool? You mentioned legislation. You mentioned getting men involved. But what do you see from your perspective as the most effective tool to turn the tide and stop this crime?
I really do think men. Anybody who knows me knows I'm going to come in here and just be yakking on about this subject, right? Say no, protect yourself, blah, blah, blah. But when men stand up, and say, I'm not going to play golf with you, and I'm not going to do a business deal with you, people listen. Guys, it's that peer pressure.
I'm not going to do that with you because.
Because I don't like how you treat your wife. I don't tolerate this. Like if you guys are in the, is it the 19th hole, you golfers, and you know somebody blurts out the N-word, I hope you stand up and say, that's not a funny word to me, I don't appreciate it, and I'd rather you not use it at this table. I hope you do that. Same thing when he tells you about the old ball and chain, or I've heard every possible domestic violence joke, you know, possible, it seems like. And so if you would say the same thing, I'm not comfortable with that, how does he know your sister wasn't battered? How does he know your daughter is not in a domestic violence relationship? When you guys do that, we have a group of men called heroes. Anybody in here a member of our heroes? Yeah, you have been. You were on the board. It's men who have zero tolerance for violence, who say, I'm not going to do it in my house, but it's not okay with me if it's happening in your house. They come down and they grill, they mentor my little boys one-on-one, they shoot baskets with my kids. It makes such a difference. And so if you all are more interested, if you have interest in that, we'd love to have you, gentlemen. We do a background check, by the way. Right. Just, yeah. And come on down and be a good role model.
Where are we having the most success? What is something that we can point to say, you know, that whether it's legislatively, whether it's you know, in the local community, what do you see as a real success in terms of awareness, funds, whatever it may be?
Yeah.
What are you proud of right now?
Yeah, well, a lot, to be real honest. I was proud of that luncheon where in a year where
Nicole Kidman, right?
Yeah. Gosh,
Did she get a word in edgewise with you? Did you let her say something?
No.
Okay.
No, she really did. I mean, she was so brilliant. Did you all watch Big Little Lies? She was so brilliant in that role, and really, you know, every one of her roles talked about, you know, critical places women find themselves. And anyway, she was wonderful. So we filled that ballroom. The fire marshal said no more in a time when luncheons are really about half of what they used to be. I'm very proud of that, and it gives us the opportunity to say and hear that 1,500 people in that ballroom like what we do. They're proud of what we do, and they want to be a partner with it. So funds have happened. I also we closed out our National Conference on Crimes Against Women last week. We had 2,500 people, all 50 states, 7 foreign countries, that come, best of the best speakers on prosecution, on investigation, on advocacy, on forensic exams, on aquatic homicides, every way you can, well, hopefully you can't think of these ways because they're pretty horrible, but 2,500 people went back to their communities and will solve a cold case homicide, they'll solve a cold case rape, sexual assault, because of this conference, and it makes me so happy to think we're moving that needle.
Right. Where's the biggest challenge? What are you disappointed about? Where do you need to focus your
Money,
okay.
Yes. I mean,
yeah, of course.
You know, there are a lot of nonprofits in the community for sure, and everybody says, like from little towns, they'll say, well, you all have so much money in Dallas. We got so many fingers in that pie, it's just really scary. And again, as you said, we don't take government funds, and so it's a struggle. Yeah. But we diversify our funds, we have events, we have my benefit thrift store. Okay, you know, did you ask me how they can help yet?
No, we'll get to that. Don't jump ahead, Jan.
But I won't remember my answer.
I know. Well, we'll get to that.
Okay. All right.
This
anyway,
is where the biggest work is. What do we need to do right now?
I think it's fundraising, but also every single person in this room, if you have the courage to talk about this with your daughters and your sons and your grandchildren, that is huge work. If you are not afraid to say to somebody, tell me why that is you have a black eye, and be ready to stand there with resources. You don't have to fix it. All you have to say is 214-946-HELP, Genesis Women's Shelter. That's how we make a difference. Yeah. That's how we, you know, when I grew up, Jeff, it is Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, last I checked. Last I checked.
There was smoking on the airplane, there was smoking in theaters, there was smoking in restaurants, and we decided at some point along that, this societal paradigm shift that I don't want to suck up your secondhand smoke. And we stopped. We just stopped. Yeah. We can do the same thing with this. We really can.
It is possible.
It is. I have hope.
Give us a quick success story. Tell us about somebody who came through Genesis and turned her life around.
Oh, my gosh. Well, so many, you know, names I can remember and so many I can't, like that little guy who slept in his red cowboy boots. But there was one family that came in. They lived down in the valley, out in the country, in a house where they weren't surrounded by anything, and she was basically a prisoner in that house. When he left, they had his car, but also they had a truck, but he'd take the spark plugs out of that truck. He never gave her any money, which compensatory power is one of the biggest reasons she stays, but he gave her money to go to the washateria on Saturdays. She would stuff the clothes in and bring home the extra change, and it was buried out in her yard, and that was her gas money, because one day he was going to forget to take out the spark plugs, and he did. She got that change, which had built up over the years. She threw 4 kids into the truck that was there, and she went north on I-35. She called that money her gas money, and she ran out of gas in Dallas, Texas. And she made a call. I happened to answer it. I happened to be there on the when we opened the door to this woman and her children. She stayed in the shelter while she was there. She goes down to El Centro and says, I want to finish my degree. She actually went to work as a paralegal. It was a North Texas Food Bank community kitchen event where she got a job. Anyway, she went to work as a paralegal. She's still at that law firm, but she went into our transitional housing. But get this, when she left, she and her children put sweat equity into a Habitat for Humanity house. They put a roof over their own heads. How cool is that, right? And to this day, they live there. All 4 kids have gone to college, graduated from college. One's an architect now. But I remember one of the first weeks that she and her kiddos were in the shelter, and one of the boys, they had all started school right away in the neighborhood that we are, and the oldest boy, Josh, wanted to run track. And Mom said, I'm sorry, I don't have money for those shoes. And somebody on my staff overheard that and said, do we have any money for this kid's shoes? And I'm like, I really don't right now, and we don't have any extra shoes. I swear to you, there is God everywhere in Genesis Women's Shelter. I opened an envelope, and it was a $500 check from a man who said, when I was 7 in Chicago, my mom and I went to a shelter, and I want you to take this money and use it any way you need it. And Josh not only got new shoes, but he ran second place that weekend.
Wow.
I know. Can I tell you one other success story?
Sure, go ahead.
What time do we have to quit?
We got to wrap up here pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got
5 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so
can I say no? I can't say that.
No, this is really good. This is really good. So I was reading the Dallas Morning News one day, and there was an article about a guy named, what's his name? I'll just say anything. George. George Santos. No, that's a terrible name.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's move along. Let's move on. Let's see, one more.
George Rodriguez. George Rodriguez.
George Rodriguez.
Or
Okay,
Rodriguez
that's
George,
better.
whichever one we want to do. So he is an artist and an illustrator, and he has had 4 of his illustrated books on the New York Times bestselling list, right? And so it talked about his life. He grew up in Dallas. He was in New York at the time, is moving back to Dallas. So he wanted to move back to the neighborhood where he was from, because he wanted other kids to know you don't have to sell drugs, you don't have to prostitute people to be successful. And then way down at the end, they asked this guy, how is it you got interested in art? And he said, well, when I was little, my mom and I went to Genesis Women's Shelter, and on Friday, Toy Day, they gave me an art kit. Now, I don't know why I had one. I don't know why I gave it to him and not the little girl next to him, but that is what started him on his road. And he's a good father. I asked him to come see me. He gives me this big bear hug, and he said, you helped an 8-year-old boy, and he turned into a good man.
Wow.
That's my paycheck
That's
right
it.
there. That's my paycheck.
Absolutely. Okay, quick. How can we help? What can we do today when we leave here today?
Right.
What can we do to help you?
Well, I heard you raised so much money for the North Texas Food Bank, there might be extra. I'm just going to throw that out there. I can never not miss a
Tricia?
chance. She would do the same thing. But also, join Heroes. Join our Women's Auxiliary, the Alliance, and help us do better at what we can do. Do a drive, like I call it Stealing for Jesus. Go to your office, get some copy paper, get some toilet paper, get some Post-it notes, and bring it on down so I don't have to pay for those things, right? But I also hope, again, men will become involved in this. But everybody can do this. You may not be able to write me a big check today, but you can go home and clean out your closets and take your donations, gently used clothing, gently used furniture, gently used pots and pans and dishes and so on, to the Genesis Benefit Thrift Store. That is probably our biggest sustainable fundraising source. It's down right behind on Lemon Avenue behind Uncle Julio's. It's a great place to shop, but it is about, I don't know, 7,000 feet of incredibleness. Our moms get to go and shop at no cost for whatever they need, whether that's new furniture to move into that Habitat for Humanity house. But every one of you all can do that. Clean out those closets and those dishes you never use. We can put them to good use, I promise.
And I'm going to say one more thing. Men, you can do something else. You can say something. Say something to some other male in your circle. That could be a son, that could be a brother, that could be doesn't matter. But say something about what you heard today about this problem, this endemic problem, because it's among us. We don't want to admit it, but it's here. And the tide is not going to turn unless we men step into the conversation and say something. And we will.
Thank you.
So give her a big hand, Jan Langbein. And I've got to introduce Bill Sleeper. Now, Jan, don't go anywhere. We stay here. You stay here. Bill Sleeper is going to come up. He has something to say. Okay? You can, or you can come up here. You're the boss.
Jan, one of the things that we hold dear is the Rotary International Foundation. And it is a national organization that benefits so many people. And our way of showing admiration and thanks to someone is to name that someone a Paul Harris Fellow. And that today is you. Now, this pen entitles you, thank you, to come to Rotary any Friday you want to.
I thought this entitled me to you buy the drinks if I am at the...
It's going to happen right after this meeting. And you're good for lots of them. And here's a certificate suitable for framing. And Jan, we admire you. We're so glad you're our Grand Marshal.
Thank you. I'm very honored. I'm humbled and I'm honored. Thank you.
Jan, we are honored to have you as our Grand Marshal. Thank you so much. All right, next Friday, we will have Stacy Cushing, Texoma Anti-Defamation League, brought to us by Mark Casher. Is Mark here today? All right, we will see him next week. All right, Tiffany Richmond, you want to lead us out in the four-way test? Are you here today? Yes, I am. Oh, there you are. Right there. I was looking.
Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair? Third, will it build goodwill or better friendships? Fourth, is it beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Ring that bell. Right there. Thank you so much.
It's fine. Just lay it there. I get it. Oh, there it is.